Did you know that you can have checks and balances in place that will help you to make your entries correctly? So the checks and balances won't work unless you know what they are, and you need to follow them consistently. And of course, it's important to have a good set of checks and balances. Now, there are many checks and balances that can be put into place, but I'm going to give you a couple that have to do with the chart of accounts setup, just to give you an example. So the example I'm going to go over is knowing what the chart of account numbers mean. And then once you know what they mean, you simply have to follow the pattern. So did you know that every chart of account number has two numbers, then four numbers, then three numbers? Now the first two numbers is the fund number. And we already talked about how you can use separate accounting funds with their own unique chart of accounts in order to print separate income and expense statements for each fund. The separate funds are identified by the first two numbers of the chart of accounts. So the example here is the general fund is 01, and that's your unrestricted. Your missions fund is 02, and your designated fund is 04. Now, PowerChurch Plus comes with a default Fund 01 chart of accounts. If you would like to take advantage of setting up other funds, you have to set those up. Did you know that the middle four numbers is the body of each chart of account numbers? And it is very important to know what the first number of those middle four numbers mean. And many of my clients put the chart that is showing here on a sticky note on their computer. It helps them to make sure they choose the right chart of account number when they're putting their entries together. So if the middle four numbers start with a 1, it's always an asset. And for churches, that's generally their banking accounts, investment accounts, the value of their land and building, and if they're putting other large fixed assets on their balance sheet, they would begin with a 1 as well. If the middle four numbers begin with a 2, those are always liability account numbers. And for most churches, that's generally payroll liabilities and if they have a mortgage or another loan. If the middle four numbers start with a 3, it's always an equity account. Now, this is really, really important. 99% of the time, you are not going to code anything directly to an equity account. That's a chart of account number with the middle four numbers begin with a 3. And the reason is because every income account, every expense account, and if you are using transfer accounts, every transfer account, when you set up the chart of account number, you set it to automatically flow to the right equity account. That's why you don't code anything directly to an equity account. I'll show you a little more detail on that later. If the middle four numbers start with a 4, it's always an income account. If the middle four numbers start with a 5 through 8, it's always an expense account. If the middle four numbers start with a 9, it's a transfer account. Now that's another setup option within PowerChurch. You don't have to use it. You can or you cannot. But the thing to understand here, transfer accounts are not used to transfer money from one bank account to another bank account. Transfer accounts are used if one fund like 01, 02, 03 is going to give another fund money. It's easy to be really confused on transfer accounts. I don't have very many clients that actually use those. And I'm not going to go into further detail about those here. Okay, did you know that the last 3 numbers of each chart of account item is the sub number? Now the sub numbers, you use those to identify similar groups or projects, and you can print reports based on those sub numbers. So my example below here is we're talking about a designated fund for youth activities and trips. And we have subbed out the asset, which is the banking. We've subbed out the equity. We've subbed out the income. And we've subbed out the expense. And all four of those have the very same sub of 415. Okay. Did you know that when you have this check and balance set up, that you are pretty much going to follow the pattern and you're going to match your funds and your subs? So in my example, I've got two examples here. So in the first example, we have subbed out the bank account, which is something you can do, but you don't have to do. And then we've got over here where we've set up the contribution fund for youth trip donations. And then in the accounting tab, the really important thing is that you match your funds, 0404. Now, since we have subbed out the bank in this example, you want to make sure you match your banking and your income, the subs match. Now, my second example, we haven't subbed out the bank for youth activities, which is fine. But over here, even though we're not matching the subs here, we have our banking, but we are matching the funds, 04 to 04. So you're going to follow that through any entry you make. You're going to have that check and balance for every single entry you make in PowerChurch.